webinar, no matter what's happening in the market, is available at soundmindinvesting.org.
Well, we've always wanted to leave some of our money for God, but we didn't know where or how.
Bernie and Alice Larson are faithful supporters of the American Family Association.
We felt like this was put into our laps as answer to our prayers as to what we could do after we're gone.
You can learn more about charitable annuities and other financial products at afafoundation.net or call 800-326-4543, extension 345.
Hey, Greg, I need some advice.
Oh, what's up?
I'm really struggling with finding ways to cut back. With costs going up, especially in healthcare, what do you guys do?
We use CHM, Christian Healthcare Ministries. It's a health cost sharing ministry that's been sharing members' eligible medical bills for over 40 years. Sure helped us stick to our budget. Here's the website, chministries.org. chministries.org.
Great to have you with us today on Faith and Finance here on American Family Radio. I'm Rob West. We're taking your calls and questions. I've got two lines open today, 800-525-7000. Whatever you're thinking about financially, you can give us a call right now. Let's head back to the phones to a first-time caller from Texas. Hi, Henry. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, hello, good morning.
Hi there.
Hey, God bless you. I listen to you a lot. I like all the great information that you have on your show there.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, yes, sir. I was just wanting your opinion on the BRICS thing that's going. I'm hearing a lot about it, but what is your opinion on that?
Yeah. Well, what I think is, and first of all, let me just say for those who aren't familiar with that term, BRICS is an acronym that refers to Brazil, Russia, China, India, and South Africa. Goldman Sachs actually created the term back in 2001 for that group of nations. And, they offered, it was Vladimir Putin that actually first announced that BRICS had a proposal to create an international reserve currency at the BRICS summit in 2022 to rival the US dollar as the global reserve standard. And then it's gotten a lot of press as of late because after months of debate about various currency and commodity baskets, that consortium settled on using gold as the basis of a planned new international currency system separate from the US dollar and the euro. Now, the real challenge, though, that they've got is whether they're actually going to make good on that promise, Henry, and I just don't think that they will. I think when it comes down to it, the ability to control their monetary supply, the ability to manipulate their currencies is going to be more important, and certainly that's been their practice to this point. That promise to base everything on the gold standard is not going to come to fruition. And that's why I think you didn't really see much movement in the price of gold, especially given that announcement. If they were to do that and take it seriously, and we really saw that play out, well, then I think there could be some longer term concern about the US dollar. At this point, 60% of the US global reserves are in US dollars, 90% of trades happen in US dollars, so it is the world's reserve currency, and there is no rival. There is no second alternative that's anywhere close. Could that change down the road? And certainly could this, if they made good on this promise around the gold standard, become something that could rival the US dollar? Yes, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. So I think it's something we continue to watch, but I wouldn't make any changes as a result of it in your finances. We would say for gold that you would want probably no more than 10% in your allocation. I would think in terms of perhaps a 5% forever allocation. That would be the physical gold, and then maybe another 5% in maybe a gold trading basket where you have an ETF or a mutual fund that tracks the price of gold that you can have in your portfolio, and you can turn that on or turn that off depending on kind of what environment we're in. But I wouldn't overweight there as a result of any of this. Is that helpful?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's great info. Hey, where would be a good place to buy gold? Is that
Yeah, it's a good question. So you've got to decide first of all how you want to own it, and most folks will think about buying gold coins, rather than gold bars, just so it's a little more divisible. The key is finding a dealer that's not going to charge you too much of a premium over the spot price. You can find out what the spot price of gold is at any time, and then you can look at what they're charging you and determine, exactly what, you're paying over and above that. So I would do I don't have a place to send you. I wish I did, but I would just do a good bit of research, look at some of the numismatic and coin grading services that will have those that have achieved their certification. For instance, the Professional Coin Grading Service would be one, the Guarantee Corporation, and look at both local as well as online options. Obviously, there's a lot of marketing being done in this space, so you really need to check anybody out in terms of reviews prior to making a decision. But at the end of the day, you have a really easy way to compare, how much premium you're paying, because you know what the spot price of gold is, and so you can see who's charging you a fair price and who isn't.
You bet. Yes, sir. Now, just one more quick thing now. What would be the name of, there's a Christian credit union that's paying good interest on the savings.
Yeah, it's Christian Community Credit Union. We like those folks a lot. They really have a ministry heart, phenomenal service, and they're really trying to be competitive out there with these higher interest rates. You can learn more at joinchristiancommunity.com. That's joinchristiancommunity.com on the web.
Okay, God bless you. You're doing a great job.
Well,
Keep
thank
it
you,
up.
Henry. May the Lord bless you, sir, and thank you for calling from Texas today. We appreciate it. Let's see. We're going to have to hit a break here. Ron, I want to make sure I give you plenty of time as we talk about this question related to your daughter and her two children. So let's do this. If you don't mind, hold right there, Ron, and we're going to hit a break here in just a moment. When we come back, we'll get to you as our first caller. Also, Bob Dahl stopping by today. We're looking forward to hearing from Bob Dahl. A lot to talk about that was in his weekly commentary, specifically the lack of mentions related to recession and inflation in a lot of the most recent corporate transcripts. What is that saying about the prospects of recession? Corporate bankruptcies on the rise. Also, if the Fed can only win one war, either the fight against inflation or the fight against higher unemployment and a recession, which will they choose? And what does that mean for the future of our economy? We'll talk about that, plus China's economic issues and less global leadership. That's all leading to the fact that, we probably are going to have more inflation, slower growth, and weaker profitability due to a move away from globalization, which had been the trend in the last 5 years. So we'll get Bob's take on all of that a little later in our broadcast, plus your questions. Phone lines are still open. We've got a few available at 800-525-7000. This is Faith and Finance on American Family Radio. We'll be right back.
Do you feel like your hands are tied with debt, preventing you from serving God? If you have credit card debt, Christian Credit Counselors can help. Through our debt management program, we can get you out of credit card debt about 80% faster while honoring your debt in full. For more information on how Christian Credit Counselors can help, visit ChristianCreditCounselors.org. That's ChristianCreditCounselors.org, or call 800-557-1985. 800-557-1985.
If you're experiencing thoughts of depression and suicide, it can feel impossible to find help. On the next Focus on the Family, Sarah Robinson provides her own story of hope and grace as she experienced the depths of despair in her life. It's a story of redemption next time on Focus on the Family with Jim Daly.
Focus on the Family is heard each weekday morning at 5 o'clock Central on American Family Radio. We are grateful for support from Eventide Investments on the Faith and Finance program. Eventide's approach to values-based investing is grounded grounded in the belief that humankind was created in the image of God, with intrinsic dignity, value, and worth. Eventide calls this investing that makes the world rejoice. More information is available at eventideinvestments.com. That's eventideinvestments.com.
At FaithFi, we are on a mission to educate, equip, and connect you and many others with the powerful financial answers found in God's Word. We're working to meet people right where they are through national radio programs, our app, website, and other resources. If you've benefited from this program, would you consider becoming a monthly FaithFi patron? Check out all of the benefits of a FaithFi Patrons membership at faithfi.com and click Give on the homepage.
AFR programming is now available on Alexa.
You're joking, right?
Nope, not joking.
Seriously?
Yep, this is not a drill.
Wait a minute. No way.
There's a way, the Alexa way. So if you just happen to miss your favorite shows, no worries. You can now listen to each podcast with Alexa. It's simple and it's free. Just visit afr.net/apps and click Alexa. We're not joking.
As the leading advocate for the Christian financial industry, Kingdom Advisors serves the public by promoting the integration of a biblical worldview across every aspect of the financial services industry. And we serve a growing network of thousands of Christian financial professionals, equipping and empowering them to carry biblical financial wisdom to their clients, peers, and community. For more information, visit kingdomadvisors.com. That's kingdomadvisors.com.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
Thanks for joining us today on Faith and Finance here on American Family Radio. I'm Rob West. We're taking your calls and questions. 800-525-7000 is the number to call. Let's hit back to the phones to Ohio. Ron, thanks for calling today. How can I help you, sir?
Like I told your screener, just because of circumstances in life, my daughter and her two children has moved back in with us, and since about the 1st of July, and I just wondered, how do we report that on our taxes? If we report it, does that limit something that she might report, and just what do we need to do?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm delighted to hear that you are in a position to be able to do that and to bless them in that way. Really the only question would just be whether or not you want to claim her as a dependent. And in order to do that, she has to live with you the substantial portion of the year, and or be related to you, and her gross income has to be less than for 2023 less than $4,300 from all income sources. So that's money, goods, property, services, that type of thing. So is she working at this point?
Yes, she's working, and
okay.
We currently don't require like a rent or anything like that. She helps out.
So given that her income is above that 4,700 for 2023, then you wouldn't be able to claim her as a dependent at this point. So there really wouldn't be any reporting. I mean, you're just offering a benefit to her to live in your home. You're covering some expenses related to her and not charging her for it, and you're perfectly entitled to do that.
Okay, so but it's still a reduction of our income or whatever.
It really isn't. If you're not claiming her as a dependent, you're not getting any tax benefits.
But okay, so what does it mean if I do claim her as a dependent? She has to be under this 4,700.
Correct. Yeah, her gross income would need to be under 4,700.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just figured, well, since she's not actually paying rent to anyone, that would be something that would be claimable, but I guess not.
Well, so I would check with your CPA just to see. I mean, you always want. Do you normally file your tax return yourself, or do you have a CPA where you work with?
Yeah, we have someone that does our taxes.
Okay, yeah, so even if you don't claim her as a dependent, I would check and see if there are any deductible expenses here, just to make sure that you've covered all of your bases. But the primary thing that would, affect your taxes would be claiming her as a dependent, but that's not going to apply in this situation. So I would just see if there are any other deductible expenses. I don't think there will be, but it never hurts to check. And anytime your situation changes, well, you certainly want to let your tax preparer know so they can let you know if there's any opportunities to take advantage of that. Ron, God bless you, my friend. We appreciate you being such a great dad to your daughter and her little ones. Thanks for calling in today. Let's head to Alabama. JP, how can I serve you?
Yes, hello. I have about $180,000 that represents cash, but I have it in a Vanguard total bond market. And, it's still missing about 13% because it's never come back. And usually it comes back within 8 months to a year, and that hasn't happened. And I am diversified in an okay way. But I wondered what really represents cash to us, if I should put it in like a 9-month or a 12-month CD, at 5.40%. Or if I should, put it in a money market at 5% or something, or do I just, I'm not expecting this interest rate thing to change that rapidly, maybe in a year from now, but I don't want to sit here making nothing, on that money for a year. So what would you recommend?
Yeah. What type of interest are you earning currently with the bond portfolio?
Oh, well, it's down 13%.
Right, the market value is, but you're still getting the interest on it.
Oh, I guess I don't understand that portion of what you're asking me. I'm not
sure.
that
Yeah, so no problem. So bonds pay an interest rate, and then they also, there's the market value of the price of the bond itself, and there's an inverse relationship with the price of the bond tied to the Fed funds interest rate. So as the interest rates, what the Federal Reserve moves up and down, that's what we've had 12 consecutive increases on. As that moves up, the prices of the bonds fall because they're less valuable, given that someone can go out and get a higher interest rate on the open market, and so those bond prices fall. That's what's put your bond holdings under pressure, because we've had such a significant, and there's very few cases in the past where we've even seen this. We've had such a significant rise in interest rates, it's caused the prices of your bonds to fall. Now, they continue to pay the coupon rate, the interest rate that was given to you by the bonds themselves, but the underlying value of the bond is falling. Now, as interest rates start to decline, and even though we may get 1 or 2 more rate hikes eventually, and I would think this will come sometime next year, the Federal Reserve will need to stimulate the economy, and we'll start to see these interest rates.
Oh, yeah.
Inflation is under control, and that may or may not include a recession with it. But as those interest rates start to come back down, the prices of
Oh, yeah, thank you.
See you tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
is that your portfolio will recover over time, and you're going to get the interest, the coupon that comes with those bonds while you're waiting. So you're earning interest now, and then as the Fed funds rate falls, at some point, the price of the bond will increase as well, and that will lift your overall portfolio. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. I mean, it's in a mutual fund.
Right.
5 to 7 years. So all of what you said still pertains to that, as well as me buying directly through the Treasury, right?
It does. It's just that you're getting an aggregate rate of all of the bond holdings, corporate and government, in that bond mutual fund. And then as those
absolutely free. We know you've learned to be suspicious of those words, but really, you can get biblical financial wisdom delivered to your inbox each week absolutely free. Articles, videos, podcasts, and special offers on biblical resources. Nearly 60,000 people receive our free weekly wisdom email, and you can too. Create your free FaithFly account by going to faithfly.com and click sign up to begin receiving weekly wisdom in your inbox. We are grateful for support from Sound Mind Investing in the Faith and Finance program. If you have money in a retirement account or just a general investing account, you know the stock market can sometimes seem like a roller coaster. But it is possible to enjoy both profit and peace of mind in investing, no matter what's happening in the market. You can see a short video webinar on that topic at soundmindinvesting.org. Since 1990, Sound Mind Investing has sought to offer financial wisdom for living well. soundmindinvesting.org.
Thanks for joining us today on Faith and Finance on American Family Radio. I'm Rob West. We've got some lines open, and in just a moment, we'll head back to the phone. So this is a great time to call with your financial questions at 800-525-7000. We've got lines open. Before we do, though, it's Tuesday. Bob normally joins us on Monday, but yesterday, because of some technical issues on our end, he was unable to do so. So, Bob, we're grateful for you stopping by today. Boy, so much in your Dolls Deliberations this week. Perhaps we start with just the economy. You made mention of the fact that we're seeing less references to recession and inflation in the most recent corporate transcripts. Anything to make of that?
Yeah, I think that it says the economy's done a bit better than people thought. Recession is leaving a lot of people's vocabularies, as I'm trying to say it, or at least being pushed back to next year. So the economy, thanks to consumer spending and reasonably strong employment trends, has done better for longer than people thought. Now, both those areas are weakening at the same time, Rob, but it's caused the second quarter earnings reports to talk a lot less about recession and inflation.
Yeah, all right. Now, despite that, we are seeing a rise in corporate bankruptcies. And I guess, this rapid rise in interest rates has to show up somewhere, and perhaps this is one of those places.
Absolutely right. And in this commentary, I tried to, number one, positive, number two, negative, kind of give people whiplash, basically to say there's some good things and there's some not so good things. And that's typical at turning points. On the bankruptcy point itself, you're right. And bankruptcies tend to happen more often in small businesses. So you hear less about them unless you're involved with them. But there are the employers, small companies do 100% of the net hiring in our country. So corporate bankruptcies are not great news for the employment scene.
Yeah, no doubt about that. All right, Bob, you also teed up this idea that at some point the Fed is going to have to decide, do we win the war against inflation, or do we just do everything we can to prevent higher unemployment and a recession? Where do you think they will land on that decision?
I think, first of all, I think they'll be back and forth, as so many people are, an attempt to do both. That is, thread the needle, and my comment is that the eye of the needle is getting smaller and harder to thread. At the end of the day, they will fight inflation, even if it causes some pain. In fact, when the Fed started raising rates, you might remember Fed Chair said, this will cause some pain before it's over, and the pain is economic weakness/recession.
Yeah, all right. Bob, what about this trend toward globalization that we had seen in the last several years, even a decade? Where is that, just in light of everything going on geopolitically and otherwise?
So it's dead for the moment. Globalization, for all its pluses and minuses, certainly was a boon to economic growth for many years. But given COVID, supply chain problems, a bit of nationalism, even protectionism, countries have gone to, I can do it myself. Even if it costs a little more, I'm going to bring that supply chain back home. And that has put a noticeable pause on globalization, maybe at least for now, the end of it.
All right, very good. Bob, where would you leave us today? Just summarize kind of where we find ourselves today.
Sadly, I'm going to say we're going to be in a trendless market. Yesterday was green, today so far is red. These alternating patterns. We've been between this 4,200 and 4,600 on the S&P 500 now for months, and my guess is that continues until we see which way things are going to go. If it's a recession, we'll break below 4,200. If not, sometime next year we'll see better profits and higher highs. So in the meantime, don't chase them. Don't panic out on the lows, and don't chase them on the highs.
Yeah, very good. I'm going to toss one more thing at you before we wrap today. For those who are just becoming familiar with this idea that their values can actually intersect with their investments as they deploy capital, both the stock and the bond market, what would you have them to know about this opportunity they have today?
First of all, I applaud them for, as Christians, understanding the opportunity. Two, I would tell them, if you're fearful that you're going to have worse returns, do some research. You will find there's empirical evidence to say you don't give up anything, so you can have a portfolio that works well for you both this life and the next life. Pursue it.
Yeah, very good, Bob. Well said. We always appreciate your insights, my friend. Thanks for stopping by today.
All the best. Bye-bye.
All right. That's Bob Dolly's Chief Investment Officer at Crossmark Global Investments, where investments and values intersect. You can learn more at crossmarkglobal.com. All right. Before we head back to the phones, and by the way, we do have a few lines open, room for maybe one or two more financial questions today. The number to call is 800-525-7000. Again, that's 800-525-7000. You can call right now. Let me take just a moment to talk about how we should stick to biblical financial principles in tough times. You know, when times are good, it's easy to trust God. But what happens when times are tough? You know, if you find your faith wavering when money is tight, or you can't find a job, or life seems chaotic, well, you're not alone. Let me read you a very encouraging passage from 1 Corinthians 15, which is all about the victory of Christ's resurrection. The last verse of the chapter says this, and listen: "Therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, stand firm. Let nothing move you. Always give yourselves fully to the work of the Lord, because you know that your labor in the Lord is not in vain." So here's why, folks, we stick to God's financial principles even when times are tough. First, well, your hard work to follow God's principles will never prove to be in vain. God has a victorious plan for you. Romans 8:28 says, "For we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Second, God sees you. You see, he knows your circumstances, and he will provide what you need to live and to do what's right, even in tough times. Suffering is a part of life in a fallen world, but God's love never fails. Philippians 4:19 reassures us in this. It says, "And my God will meet all your needs according to the riches of his glory in Christ Jesus." So your hard work will not be in vain. God sees you. And then thirdly, your faithfulness, it has a purpose. When you choose honesty in your business dealings, you're being a witness for Jesus. When you give sacrificially, you're investing in God's kingdom. When you pursue wisdom in your financial choices, you're drawing closer to the Lord. In Luke 9:11, Jesus asked this question. He says, "If you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches?" You see, your faithfulness in following godly financial values will result in peace for you on earth and treasures in heaven. Giving yourself fully to the work of the Lord in your finances might seem hard to do when you're living paycheck to paycheck, or maybe when your debts seem overwhelming. But God has an answer to that problem. 2 Corinthians 9:8 says, "He gives us what we need to do what's right." Here's what it says. It says, "And God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things, at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work." So let me encourage you today, no matter what you're facing in your financial life or in any area of your life, God will give you the strength to stand firm in the storm. You can be a faithful steward of your resources, even in tough times, because God will help you to do it. Your hard work in serving and following Jesus is not in vain. You see, folks, in him you have hope and a future and all the provision you will need to do the next right thing in your financial life. So let me just encourage you today, Don't get down on your circumstances. Trust that God's word is true. His promises are true every time, and we can lean into him. And don't miss the opportunity to invite God into your financial life. I don't want you to miss the chance to say, God, you see what's going on here. Lord, I need you to intervene. I want to invite you into my financial life, and I'm going to do my part. You see, I'm going to live faithfully in applying your wisdom. I'm going to recognize your ownership. I'm going to accept my role as steward, and I'm going to live within my means and avoid debt to the best of my ability, and I'm going to give generously. I'm going to continue to even give systematically. That's between you and the Lord how much. But I would just encourage you, don't forsake that opportunity to continue giving at whatever level you can, even in those tough times. And then watch as God works. Watch as God is faithful to provide, perhaps even in a way you never expected. Because here's the reality. God is our provider. It's not the U.S. government. It's not your employer. It's not anyone else. Now, God can choose to use any of those to provide, but ultimately, he is our provider, and he will not abdicate that responsibility to anyone else, and we can trust him. You remember what he said? If I'm going to provide for the birds of the air, how much more will I not provide for you, my children? And so let's accept that today. Let's recognize that as we live in light of those truths, that God will show up. And we can trust him. And here's the reality, folks. We already have an abundance before even the first dollar. Remember that your position in Christ is all that you need. And God is our true treasure. You see, it's not that he's the source of our abundance. He is that, but he is our abundance. And so let's lean into that reality and truth today and remind ourselves that no matter what's going on in our financial life, we can run to the Father. And in that is rest and provision and protection. I want to encourage you today, make that your focus today. And if you're in a really dark place financially, and I know many of you are, just know that we're praying for you. Our team prays for you regularly here at Faith and Finance, and we can do this together. And here's the reality. When you trust God, you're showing to the world what it looks like to live in light of God's promises. Hey, thanks for being along with us today. It's been my absolute pleasure to take your questions today, to encourage you, and to point you back to the scriptures. On behalf of my team today, Devin Patrick, Robert Youngblood, and Robert Sutherland, I'm Rob West for Faith and Finance on American Family Radio. Have a great rest of your day, and come back and join us tomorrow. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
90.5 KTXG Greenville, Dallas. Blogging, hashing it out.
Expression. Let's talk. The Stand, a blog for religious freedom, to promote Christian values and to expose attacks on the American family. The Stand is a wall of defense and a beacon of light to those in danger. Lift your voice. Visit afa.net/The Stand. That's afa.net/The Stand.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, almost a pew.
When Eagle attacked Ground Zero in New York, and I remember standing there the next day and looking at the building. I felt like I was looking through the gates of hell. It looked so devastating because from where you could stand.
Those comments from Joe Biden in Alaska yesterday getting a lot of attention, since his own records show he did not visit Ground Zero the day after the 9/11 attacks. He was actually on the Senate floor that day. Outkick host Tommy Lahren says, if Biden can't even handle the ceremonial aspects of being president, why does any Democrat think he can last another week in office, much less another 4 years?
I don't believe that they actually think that. I just think that they know that the alternative is Kamala Harris, and perhaps that is worse. But he repeatedly lies, and so the question is he lying because he has dementia and he doesn't remember, a problem, or is he just simply a lying dog-faced pony soldier, which also is a problem? Any way you spin this, a problem.
Former Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard says Joe Biden is trying to destroy the country.
While he and his administration are doing everything they possibly can to undermine our democracy and undermine our fundamental freedoms that are enshrined in the Constitution, the hypocrisy is deafening. It's almost like he feels like if he just says things, that they're true.
Yeah.
And thinking that we're so stupid as just to sit back and believe what he says, when in reality we can see that the opposite is actually very true.
Parents in Virginia are applauding Governor Glenn Youngkin. Chris Woodward tells us why.
The governor has pardoned Scott Smith of his disorderly conduct conviction stemming from his June 2021 arrest at a Loudoun County School Board meeting. Jeff Katz, afternoon host at WRVA in Richmond, told AFN Youngkin did the right thing by this father.
His daughter had been the victim of a sexual assault, and the school board was in the process, apparently, of covering it up. To put it mildly, he was outraged.
Governor Youngkin said Smith is a dedicated parent who's faced unwarranted charges trying to help his child. Victoria Cobb of the Family Foundation of Virginia told AFN they're pleased to see the governor continue to stand for parents.
Scott Smith had every right to give public